positive or negative, and show us how we can be more than conquerors. If you'd like to speak with either Shoshannah or Jene, you can reach them by email at lifetalk@mmchurch.com. And now be blessed by today's presentation of Life Talk.
You're not Jene.
No.
How are you, Dad?
I'm good, Show Babe. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So you're joining me today because Jene is actually on a family vacation.
And I hope she's having a great time. And I've said this before, but I am the ugly version of Jene taking over today.
Well, they're currently driving, so I don't know how much fun that is with 4 kids in the car down to Texas. So, but she was going to try and pre-record with me, and her schedule just didn't work out. So yeah. I told her not to worry about it. And I think she's actually going to be gone for the next, 2 weeks, maybe even 3. So you might be another guest on here. Just be prepared. Okay.
Okay. I'm more than happy to. I would love if Ashley could come back on. I found her.
Yes, I have to. She is actually a plan of mine, but okay. Yeah, I gotta try and connect our schedules because she's got 3 little ones and works full time, and
yeah.
So we got to figure out our schedules. But so thank you for last minute being a guest on the show. But I'm actually going to let you run with this show. I'm going to be kind of your backup. I'm going to be your wingman. Since I'm a better wingman with you than I am leading you. So I'm going to turn it over to you and jump in where needed.
Well, I just want to I want to first of all, I want to give a victory report. And if we get no more than this, it'll be a tremendous blessing to somebody, I'm sure. Because you and Jene have been talking a lot about thoughts, and I've preached about my own battle with depression and darkness. Incidentally, if you're listening today and you didn't hear the sermon I preached where I talked about the depression I faced, one of the deepest depressions I've been in a while, just recently, I preached that, and I believe, let me just take a quick look. I believe the message was entitled something along the lines of the importance of church attendance. At any rate, can we put that link to that sermon in the description today?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I talked about a deep depression. I was so the depression was so deep at that point that I was not even able to go to Ritz's second birthday party, and that's how bad it was. I could not attend my own grandson's birthday party. So it just gives you an indication of what kind of darkness and depression I'm talking about. And I did expound upon that in that sermon. So it might be a blessing to people that fight. And
so people understand. I know sometimes because it was his second birthday party, and a lot of people are like, well, what's the deal about a second birthday party? Just so people understand, Ritz was born during the pandemic, so we didn't have a first birthday for him. So we went all out for his second birthday since we weren't able to do anything due to COVID. We weren't able to do anything for his first birthday. So that is why when he says that it being a big deal, it's like him missing Ritz's first
and all the family and all the friends were there, and everybody was there, and I couldn't do it. But anyway, it was a very dark time, and one of the things that I've learned from Jene, even listening to Life Talk, is to challenge your thoughts. Why do we feel the way we feel, and what's going on in our lives, and challenge those thoughts. And I'm reading a wonderful book that Jameson actually got for me. It's called Out of the Cave. And I'm sorry, I cannot think of the gentleman's name that wrote the book, but it's called Out of the Cave. And in that book, there's one statement that I underlined and I memorized, and you can memorize it. It takes 2 seconds to memorize it because it simply says this. It simply said, don't chew your thoughts, choose your thoughts. And when we chew our thoughts, we were going to talk today about how the devil knows how to discourage us and how to get us down. And one of the ways he does that is by getting us to chew on over and over again negative thoughts, bad thoughts, depressing thoughts, and we just chew on it and chew on it. And we can change all that by rather than chewing on whatever thought comes to our mind, we can choose the thoughts that we want to think about. And I just want to, and Jene actually told me that at one point, and I put it to practice, and I read it in this book, and I've been putting it to practice, and it came to fruition on our vacation. I don't know if I know you're aware of this. I don't know if you're aware of what was going on in my head. Shoshannah was out with Ritz. I was home at the house that we had all rented. We had a wonderful vacation, by the way. God blessed us. The whole family was there. Everybody but Isaac. Isaac couldn't make it because of work, but the whole family was there, and everybody just got along great. And it was just so good to be around each other. But towards the end, everybody was out of the house. I don't know where they all were, but I was there, and you had been out with Ritzy, and you came home with Ritz, and you had some little toys that he bought. And one of those little toys was a rubber snake that I'm going to guess if you stretched it out, it's probably, I don't know, maybe 2.5 feet long.
It was long, was? Yeah.
Now you and Jene have talked about my fear of snakes before.
Oh yeah.
And how we pass these things on to one another. And when he walked in with that snake, that feeling gripped me like, oh no, he's, because he's wanting to show me all his new toys. And I panicked for a second. But the last thing I wanted to do was to transmit a fear of this to him.
Yeah.
And so I had to just stop. I did not react negative or positive. I just sat frozen while he was playing with this thing, just, a couple of feet away from me. And the fear of snakes I've had, that you couldn't even bring a toy snake in my.
Oh yeah. We never had fake snakes in the house.
And I sat there with it, and I tried my best to keep it away from me without him realizing I was trying to keep it away from me.
Yeah.
And then I went into my thought process mode, and I stopped myself and I challenged my thought. And this is what I did. While I'm sitting there, I started thinking, why am I afraid of this? What harm can this little rubber snake do to me? And the answer was none. Can't hurt me at all. What danger is there in being in the presence of this rubber snake? And the answer was, there's no danger. And I kept challenging those thoughts. I said, there's nothing this thing can do to me. It cannot hurt me. There's no danger being around it. And I reached out and touched it and grabbed it, similar to what I did that day in the story you told in one of your sessions. But I reached out and picked it up, and I held on to it, and I actually stretched it out, and I actually started playing with it with him and fooling around with it. And to me, that was a tremendous victory. He never saw it. He would never know it. Anybody watching would never know it. You knew it because you know.
Oh, yeah, we even said, we're like, Dad, look at you.
And I actually picked it up and carried it around, moved it because I challenged my thought. Rather than allowing that to control my life, I challenged the thought. And so it really is effective if you stop and think of, what are you afraid of, or what is making you feel bad, what is depressing you, or what is discouraging you, or whatever it is, and then start challenging that. Is that true? Will that really happen? Did this really take place? And it's just amazing. And
well, the fastest way for the enemy really, I think the only way for the enemy to really take you down is to get into your mind, and that's your thoughts.
Yeah,
that's your just personal. I mean, you made that statement, don't chew on your thoughts, choose your thoughts. And that's so powerful because, in the Bible, God commands us to give thanksgiving, but that's not because, it's because it's allowing us to control our thoughts. When we're giving thanksgiving in a time when the devil or the enemy is trying to discourage us, discourage is the opposite of thankfulness, right?
Yep.
You're discouraged. You're thinking about all the things that are going bad, all the things that you're going through. And when you force yourself to give thanksgiving, you're forcing yourself to look at the good in your life.
Yep.
To look at the little glimmer of hope that you have, which is Christ, which is, and so I realized that in my own marriage, I've been very open about it. I loved being single. I was very happy being single. And I remember there was at one point, I think you and I were in the garage getting ready for my wedding. We were getting that cross together, and we just got to talking about marriage. And you had stopped and you said, "Sho, is this what you really want to do? Are you, this is not, you don't have to do this. You don't have to, and listen, I loved being single. And I remember I said back to you, Dad, who am I to tell God that his gift isn't good enough? Who am I to say that this, to tell God that he's wrong? And I love Michael. I adore Michael. He's a phenomenal husband. He's a wonderful father. He is an amazing minister. He's just amazing in every aspect. And yet if I allow the enemy to get into my mind, I can start nitpicking, because that's just my personality. I start nitpicking. Well, he didn't do this. He didn't do this. He didn't do this. And what happens is when I chew on those thoughts, like you said, I find that I get very resentful and very irritated. And there's been times that I've, gone to you and the minute I choose my thoughts and I start thinking about, wow, look at what your whole mindset changes. And that's why your mind is so important, to make sure that it is fixed on God and that you do choose your thoughts and not chew on them. I just felt like adding that in.
No, and it's so true, because we live in an imperfect world. We live in it. I have always referred to it as a sin-cursed world.
Yeah.
The moment sin came into the world, everything went wrong. Even in nature, things are wrong. Weeds grow. Plants die. We die. There is nothing in the new cars rust. New houses eventually need a new roof. I mean, there's just always things going wrong, and so it is with us as people. Whether it's ourselves, whether it's our spouse, whether it's our children, whether it's our parents, whether it's the pastor, whether it's the saints in the church, there's just no circumstance in life that's perfect. And when we talk about, the Bible is just filled with scriptures telling us to be thankful.
Yeah.
To give thanks.
As 1 Thessalonians talks about, give thanks in all circumstances.
All circumstances. Rejoice always, the Bible says.
Yep.
Why does it say those things? And it says those things because of what you just said, because we will be affected by what we're thinking about. And if we're thinking about what's wrong, what's negative, what's bad, it will bring us down. And that's what the root of depression is. The root of depression starts in thoughts.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of power and a lot of energy. And that's why we need to help one another. And I know you help me. And when you can see that I'm not myself, you come after me, and Mom does that. And because we need each other, and we need to recognize each other, because it's what we're thinking about or what we're allowing to ourselves to dwell on that brings us to that place. And if we only dwell on what's negative, our world is going to be filled with negativity.
Yeah.
And we're going to feel negative, and we're going to be depressed, and we're going to be discouraged, and we're going to be hopeless. But if we focus on what's right and what's good, it will be uplifting, so that we can look at what's wrong and maybe fix some of it, rather than just complain about it and give up on it.
You emailed me this article that you thought was great, and then come to find out you never actually read it. So I'm actually I'm good.
I perused it, and I realized immediately it would be something that you could probably expound upon.
But anyway, you never read it, and so I'm going to actually pull out I think a phenomenal sentence in this whole article that says Thanksgiving is a counterintuitive antidote to discouragement, because when we feel discouraged, we don't feel like giving thanks.
There you go. That's beautiful.
And so going back to you, instead of chewing your thoughts, choose your thoughts. We have to choose to give Thanksgiving, whether we feel like it or not. Listen, Have you ever absolutely, I mean, I do know this growing up, there's been days that you just did not feel well, and you were in one of your depression spells, and I could usually tell that because your office was like a disaster, literally looked like a bomb went off in it. And I find that when you're in not you per se, just people in general, you don't have the strength, you don't have the ability to really clean up. But yet, when you start to clean and you start to pick up, even though you don't feel like it, once you start doing the action, the want follows, right? Yeah. Then you start feeling really good, and you're like, wow, this, I feel really good. with this clean room. And it's kind of like that with your Thanksgiving thoughts and discouragement. When you're discouraged, you don't feel like thanking. You don't feel like trying to find, but if you can start the action, the feeling will follow.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, my mother used to say this when I would feign sickness so I could get out of going to school. She always said something to me that to this day I can hear her saying it. She'd always say, "You'll feel better once you get there."
Yeah.
And what she was saying was, you may not feel like doing it right now, but once you get doing it, you'll be fine.
Yep.
And I remember Joe, our son-in-law, Liz's husband, Joe Villalobos, he quoted a guy at his job that I quote that even more regularly than I quote my mother saying, "You'll feel better when you get there." He quoted a guy at his job that would always say, "Let's go. The hardest part is the getting to it."
Yeah, that is so
But once you get to it, all of a sudden things just start flowing. Like you got to clean your garage. You just dread it. But if you get going, all of a sudden the hardest part was getting to it. And once you get to it, you get taken over. So it is with giving thanks. The hardest part is in the midst of discouragement, in the midst of a lot of things in your life that are wrong. The hardest part is to find and focus on what's good. And the hardest part is getting to it. But once you get to it, it starts to flow and you start to feel better and you get uplifted. And suddenly you notice other things to be thankful for. And suddenly you're a little, suddenly your spouse or your friend or whatever is in a better mood because you just lifted your spirits.
Right.
And it all has to do with what we're going to focus on and what we're going to allow ourselves to dwell on. And I brought this out in many sermons, and I'm sure it will come up again, that the Bible does not just say, in fact, you might want to look this up maybe while I'm saying it. The Bible does not just say, be thankful in all things. It actually says to be thankful for all things. For all things to be thankful. Because even in bad situations, how many times have you learned something from being in a bad situation?
Oh, yeah.
How many times do we learn how not to do something, how to do something better so that doesn't happen again? And I can be thankful for things that went wrong because it taught me something. It taught me maybe how to do it right. It taught me how to change my attitude about it. So we need to be thankful for all things, not just for the good things.
I can't find it.
No, at any rate.
But
it's in one of my sermons. Listen to all my sermons because one of those sermons I've quoted it.
It says, "Rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is."
Well, there you go. Same thing. In all circumstances. In all circumstances.
In all things. Right.
It doesn't say in good circumstances.
Correct.
In all circumstances, give thanks because there's something to be thankful for.
Absolutely.
So when we talk about the devil knowing how to discourage you, he does by getting you to focus on what's wrong and to
immediately attacks your mind.
To complain.
Yep.
To complain.
Right. So the minute you start feeling negative about something, think of a positive.
That's right. And focus on it. And ask yourself, why are you feeling negative? What's really going on? What's really happening? If I was honest with myself back when I could not go to Richard, and it was a big birthday party. I mean, all the family was there. Friends were there. This was, like you said, it wasn't just a little, birthday cake, blowing out a candle and singing happy birthday and going home. It was a big deal. And I could not be there. And if I'd have stopped myself back then and say, why am I feeling this way? I could have pinpointed a couple of things and said, why do I not want to go to the birthday party? Who's in there that I don't want to see? There wasn't one person. Who's in there that I wouldn't want to be a blessing to? There wasn't one person. If I knew then what I know now, and I'm ashamed to say, as old as I am, that I'm still learning this stuff. If I understood then that the feeling of depression can be changed by the thoughts, I would have focused on thoughts rather than just how I felt. And my thoughts would have changed that, and I would have had a wonderful time. But I'm going to have a great time at his third birthday party.
I said after a second birthday party, we're not doing anymore.
That's all right. I'm doing it. If I'm the only one there.
Well, this was a great talk, and I appreciate you coming on, Dad.
It's always my pleasure.
Last minute, I appreciate it. You're my right hand. You're like my ride or die. Is that what they say? My ride or die?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, my wingman.
Yeah, when nobody else is around, you'll drudge me out and
exactly
stick me in front of a camera.
Well, I appreciate it as always. You, your insight into things is invaluable. I mean, it's always a pleasure to have you on.
And we're going to put the link to that sermon that I preached and what happened when I was through. It was that time that I was in my darkest time.
Yeah, I'll do that.
One thing, and I want to encourage you, if anybody's listening and you fought depression, you fought hardship, I'll tell you there was one thing I would not do, and that was I would not stop going to church. And when I was in church, I would not stop worshiping God, because no matter what, no matter how I felt, no matter what was happening, if the world was crumbling around me, I was not going to rob Jesus of the praise he deserved. And that is what ultimately, it's in that sermon, that's what ultimately transformed my life that day. So we'll put the link to that sermon in the description today.
Yeah, I will do. All right. Thank you, Dad.
Okay. Love you, show, babe.
God bless everyone. And we'll be here same time next week.
Have a great week, everyone.
All right. Talk to you later, Dad.